Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back. It's your boy, Kenny, and we're bringing you another impromptu review, discussion, whatever you want to call it. But today, the topic is going to be Netflix's latest horror flick titled Fear Street Part 1, 1994, the year your boy himself was born, man. And before we get into the review, make sure you drop a like and a comment if you're watching this on the YouTubes. And if you're enjoying the sultry sound of my voice in your ears, make sure you download the episode, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your colleagues, and anyone you know that likes podcasts, and bump it loud on your radio, man, and let the people know. It really helps the channel grow. We're all over the social medias. But enough of the plugs. Let's get into the nitty gritty. And starting off with some facts about the movie a little bit, getting into some background on it. This was actually acquired during the Disney Fox merger and was going to come out in theaters a couple years back in like 2019, I believe. And it didn't end up happening due to the pandemic and everything, but it did survive through the merger, so to speak, and got out there, and Netflix got their hands on it. And here we are getting the trilogy of Fear Street movies based off the R.L. Stine book series, and we're gonna be getting, and we already got 1994 this past Friday, July 2nd. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna be getting part two, 1978 next week on July 9th, and then July 16th they're gonna be dropping part three, 1666, and it's a whole interweaving story that ties in through generations, and we'll get into that a little bit later when we get into the review more so. But yeah, man, so it's this nice, really cool trilogy of slasher flicks that they got going here. And while it's kind of ambitious, it's kind of cool to see somebody really put something together and really put some thought into creating some cool lore and background on, you know, just these slashers and these killers and stuff. And obviously, it's loosely based off a book, but it's still cool they're doing that. And just some of my positives going into the movie, man. I loved the direction and the editing style of this film. It was directed by this young lady named Lee Janiak, and I believe she directed at least one film prior to this one and got into a bunch of TV and stuff like that. But man, I'm glad she's making feature films, yo, because this movie is awesome, man. From top to bottom, for the most part, this movie is really dope. It's pretty well written for the most part. It's got really cool directions and just a directorial style, and the performances she gets out of the actors are really strong, especially for these people being no names and, you know, not really having a lot of experience behind them. She really gets some good performances out of them, and just the editing style really reminds me of like a Edgar Wright movie or something like that. And just the cast themselves were on point, and they were kick-ass, man. They were really funny. They really hit all the beats, man. And I liked everyone in the film, man, especially the computer nerd kid. I actually connected to his character and kind of actually identified with him, funny enough. And his sister and everything that she was kind of going through with trying to find out what her purpose is going to be in life in a certain way, and trying to make it work with her girlfriend or whatever, and because she's not really out there with her sexuality or whatever. So it was a really cool little teen romance thing that they were doing in there, just like all the 90s slasher flicks. And when it comes to being a slasher flick, they don't skimp in the gore department at all, man. Carnage, candy is getting served on a plate to you right here. They ain't pulling no punches with this, man. It ain't like Friday the 13th, 30 kills or anything. But when they get to the kills, they ain't pulling no punches. it's all blood and guts right there for you to see. And it ain't no CGI blood neither, but man. And it's really good practical effects for pretty much all the movie, almost entirely. So I really want to give them props on that because horror is never better than when it's done with practical effects. Even when the movie isn't great, when the effects and the kills and the violence and the gore is done with the practical effects, it's always going to hold up and look better every single time, man. So I got to give him props on that. And just the great world building in this movie and in this series of movies really has me intrigued and really satisfied me in this first part in 1994 because it's this place called Sunnyvale, and or no Sunnyside, sorry. And it was and they are across the way from another town that they have a rivalry with called Sunnyvale. And they always call Sunnyside Shitty Side because for years, ever since 1666, wink wink, there has been a curse upon the town where this witch named Sarah Fear has been possessing people throughout the town for generations and making people just snap and kill people out of nowhere, out of the blue. And it's just been happening over and over and over again. And people are just shit all over the town, especially people in Sunnyvale. And it's just big rivalry between the schools. And I really like that aspect of the film, man. And it really felt true and rang true in the film. And I just really like that whole side of the world building and there being killers throughout the ages, like a Jason type killer that you see from 78, I believe. And you see a whole different type of killer from another time, like this girl with the switchblade and stuff like that. I think she was from the 50s. And then you got the whole witch element, Sarah Fear, that ties into 66. And I ain't talking 1966, of course. And she's all a part of the Salem witch trials and all this stuff. And I just love the way they're weaving in these different horror tropes and these different slasher archetypes into new original characters and trying to create their own lore from that. So I really dug all of that, man. And there's just great pacing throughout the whole movie, man. It just never stops. You're always having fun and then having a good time. And the soundtrack is kick ass, man. I'm talking about Soundgarden. I'm talking about more human than human. You know what I mean? So the soundtrack is kick ass. If they ever sell it in stores, I'm definitely going to be buying it, adding that to the Spotify playlist right away because that soundtrack is awesome and really brought that 90s flavor, man. And yeah, man, I mean, I don't really have too many complaints with this movie. I really enjoyed the hell out of it, but I do have a few negatives and a few nitpicks, you could say. And my main negative of the movie and the thing I didn't like was there was this skull mask killer that was running around. I didn't like him in particular, like the design of it. I thought it was a little corny, and there's just some corny elements in the movie in general overall, but they're kind of going for that teen, all ages vibe while still appealing to adults. Kind of like that scary stories to tell in the dark, I believe it's called. And that one kind of, from what I heard, didn't really strike the balance between trying to appease all ages. But I thought this really struck that balance really well for the most part. There's a few moments here and there. They got some corny jokes and stuff like that. But that still feels very 90s, 80s to me, which is still like a very slasher movie vibe to me. So it still fits in. It doesn't completely take me out of the movie, but that killer doesn't have a cool design, but the other killers did, so I was cool with that. So it definitely balances itself out there, and you could almost call that more of a mixed element of the movie, but either way, I'm going to throw it into the negatives. And then a couple of scenes, like the bus scene when the kids are about to throw all that Gatorade or whatever out the window and end up making them crash off the road and all that stuff. I didn't really like that scene because it's like the driver isn't going to say anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't hit the brakes. He didn't say anything to them. No one said a word to these kids at all. And they were getting in a fight earlier in just a big ass rumble, and no one was even stopping it for like a good 5-10 minutes. It was like Cobra Kai season 3 in there. You know what I mean? So it was just a few scenes, had some logic issues, but like I said, doesn't take me out of the movie, but I just wanted to point it out and just to be objective and just to really speak on my experience watching the movie. You know what I'm saying? So, not huge negatives, not a huge issue that's going to drag down the score or the enjoyment of the movie, but just some stuff that I noticed and wanted to point out. But Fear Street 1994 is such a fun ride that I recommend, especially to all my horror fans out there and all my slasher fans out there. But I'm sure if you enjoy just really fun, off the wall type movies, Scott Pilgrim, you know what I mean? The Babysitter, another one off Netflix. I really recommend this one. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Really awesome movie. Could have been punched up a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's really off to a great start. One of the better slasher movies of the modern era. And I'm definitely going to be watching this and adding it to my watch list. And I really recommend you guys check this out. And speaking of checking things out, make sure you keep checking us out. And don't miss Fear Street Part 2 1978 review. Going to be hitting you next weekend, y'all. And we're going to be bringing you that Loki episode 5 recap. And we got some other recaps coming down the line. And we got more spoiler discussions hitting you right in the face. Black Widow next weekend dropping as well. And we're going to be doing that M. Night Shyamalan flick Old at the end of the month. So make sure you stay tuned, don't sleep, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.